Oh, Randy, K7AGE. Time for a big project here. I'm going to rebuild my whole radio desk here. So it's a lot of work, stripping everything down and starting all over again. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I'll be doing. So I've decided I'm going to get rid of my rack here. That's just over to the right. In my previous station in Grass Valley, all I really used the rack for was to hold my amplifier and my antenna tuner, and then it collected a lot of other stuff just for storage. So I'm going to unload that and get it out of here. With the rack gone, I'm going to take this table here and shove it that way. And I have another table just like this one that's parallel to it right now, and I'm going to swing that around. It'll go from the corner behind me here out, so it'll be a corner desk. So one of the things I had to do here with the rack was, I was using it as a giant plug strip. I had all sorts of stuff plugged in there, including some things that run 24/7, such as my marinetraffic.com receiver that picks up the AIS traffic position and ship data from the ships out here in the Pacific Ocean off at Go Beach and sends it off to marinetraffic.com. I have a similar device for Flight Radar 24. It receives the ADS-B data from the airplanes and sends it off to flightradar24.com. And the other thing that runs all the time, I have a weather station which is connected into a Raspberry Pi, and that collects the data from my weather station and sends that out to Citizens Data, I think Weather Underground, and also to APRS.FI. So they were all up here on the top shelf, so I had to shut those down, disconnect them, and I have them sitting over here on a box out of the way, all fired up and running again with all their power, antennas, and Ethernet connections. So what I'm about to start to do is remove the rest of this equipment. Everything's going to come off the desk here. And replacing all this is the big wood shelf that I built last June. It's been that long, and I need to get that up out of the basement. I need some help with that. It's kind of big, and we'll get that set in here. But first I got to clean off everything here, clean off everything on the other table here, find a place to put everything for the time being, and get to work. Wow, that was a lot of work just getting all that stuff off the table. So here we are now, about a week later. In fact, it's December 31st, last day of the year, so Happy New Year. So I rearranged the tables. My neighbor helped me get the shelf up from the basement. I've placed a lot of the equipment in the areas. I really haven't done much wiring yet. In fact, the only thing that's running right now is I have an audio cable from the headphone out of my TS2000 going over to my computer, because I've been receiving the ISS SSTV pictures over the last week. So one more pass this morning. I need one more picture I'd like to get a better copy of. One of the things I talked about was my marine traffic and Flight Radar 24. So I've repackaged those into this old Lambda power supply frame that I've probably been holding on to for 25 years. So I had some pegboard left over from my workbench projects, and attached that to the bottom of the frame, and then I'd place the equipment in there and just use cable ties to tie it all down. So I have done some wiring. I've hooked up the RF output path, basically from the K3 to the amplifier, through the watt meter, the LP100, through the antenna tuner, and the output of the antenna tuner then is wired into my 5-position Ameritron antenna switch, which I've mounted on the end of the workbench here. I've used this before out at the tower when I lived in Grass Valley, but here I have enough coaxes. I'm bringing everything into the shack, so I'm using this electronic switch. And eventually I'll have another switch I can select between which transceiver goes into all that path. So I can use my TS2000 or my older FT990 or feed it into my SX71 receiver I have sitting here. Another thing I'm doing during this whole process is that when I attach something up, I'm putting these little small cable ties on each end of the cable. So I have a color code like red for power, blue for coax, and a couple other things. Then I just randomly pick another one. I'm not writing them down or logging them, but when I'm looking behind something, I'll be able to see that and figure out where the other end is. And I bought a whole jug full of these things from Amazon. So yeah, I know some people don't like putting them on because it'll catch when you try and pull through. They can be sharp when you cut them off. My side cutters, I can cut them off pretty close, and so far it hasn't been a problem. And also on all my wall warts, I'm labeling the top of them, so there's so many of these darn things to know which one's which. And another thing, I bought a whole bunch of these Velcro cable tie things from Amazon, and the idea they wrap around. I'm trying to keep cables up off the floor as much as possible. I've mounted my plug strips underneath the bench up off the floor, and so some cable management, just kind of shorten things up a little bit, but leave enough so I can pull the equipment out. These guys who really build a special room and set it all up so they can have a room behind the desk to do all their wiring and stuff, that's really nice if you got the space. So while I'm making new cables, if I make them long enough, I have extra wire to put some ferrites on things. So I have this Palomar engineering package. It's 10 rings and 10 snap-ons, mixed 32 ferrites, with the idea that I can put these on a lot of the cables going into the radios and stuff. So these are the rings. They're 1.25 inches inside diameter. So you're not going to get many turns of a 1/2 inch coax. So the coax from the radio to the amplifier is RG58, smaller diameter, so I can put a lot of turns. Because the choking impedance increases by this square the number of turns. So first turn is, say, impedance of 1x. 2 turns is 4x, 3 turns is 9x. So the more turns you can get through these things, the better. So I'm going to start off by putting them on the RF leads and the power supply leads going into the radio. And the same type of thing with these little clamp-on ones. These are good for like audio cables, control cables. It's a 1/2 inch diameter, so you can get maybe 3-4 turns through there, and then click it shut. So no association. And with Palomar, I've heard some of Bob's presentations. I forget, at a Hamfest or online, crazy year of Zoom. You can go to the Palomar Engineers website, and he's got he's got his presentations there you can go through. No association with him, but time to think about a little choking here. A little choking in a ham shack. And while I've been handling the equipment, it's been loose. It's a good time to give everything a clean up with some dusting, a little 409, some paper towel, clean off the radios. I've taken pictures and written down the serial numbers for my inventory list. I'm capturing the data now. I'm not actually doing the sheets as I go along. But while it's out where I can read the serial numbers, I can put the little dots on the back. It's a good time to do that. So what's left to do? A whole bunch of stuff. A lot of wiring. I got a brand new i7 Dell desktop sitting over here in the boxes, so that's going to be hooked into two monitors here. So I have all that wiring to do. I got to hook up my mixer. I'm only going to use my mixer for the radio outputs going up to the JBL speakers. I'm not going to use it for microphone input to the radio. Fire up and test things. With a new computer, just all the software you have to deal with to get everything up and running again. So I think that's all for now. And when I get more of this running, I'll come back and show you what's going on. So thanks for watching. This is Randy, K7AGE. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button on the video there in the corner. And if you want to be notified when I post a new video, you can hit on that little bell icon on YouTube. So back to work. 73, Randy, K7AGE.